I mean, I later on realized that it's actually not normal for you to have period pain that affects your everyday life, which is your school, going to work, playing sports. People always ask me, like, did you ever play sports? I'm like, not really. I played soccer for a bit, but then like I would get so sick on the field.
Because I mean, when you talk about, menstrual health, period poverty, it has become a thing, especially when you look at child-headed families, families that, you are a girl and you're staying with your dad, and it's a taboo to talk about these things in our culture. And you then realize that there's also misinformation.
I was not sexually active at the time, but I remember going to a certain institution and they said, no, she's being sexually reckless. And I said to them, I've never even had sex with a guy before. These young girls. And that day they actually treated me for an STI. And I remember I woke up the next day with like really, really bad thrush. And I was just like, okay, this is bad. Now I'm getting to a place where even institutions are misdiagnosing me and not even treating me correctly, because for a young girl who's maybe 18 or 19 to be complaining about pelvic pain or bleeding or clots, it means she's had an abortion, or that's what they thought. I thought I'm doing pretty well.
Yeah.
And then I got into the marriage institution and I didn't realize that having a baby was like that serious, that your lack thereof of having a child basically makes you non-existent.
Shine, your light has come. Today is your day to soar. Prepare your heart and raise your voice. What are you waiting for? The old has gone, the new has come. Yes, we are born anew. The love and wealth he had restored cleanses the soul the more.
Hello everybody, welcome to yet another episode of your favorite podcast, the Love, Life&God Podcast, with your host Onward Gibson. I'm so excited because we are keeping you busy, because we have an episode after every 2 weeks finally. So I want to encourage you to go to our YouTube, make sure that you subscribe, make sure that you click the notification button. So there's been an improvement, because in the last episode we discovered that 60% of our viewers are not subscribers, but the number is actually increasing. So now around 45% of our viewers are not subscribers. So I want to encourage you to subscribe so that when we bring more content, you don't miss out. And I'm so excited today because someone in the studio who is very interesting, and she's an author. She's into women empowerment. She does a lot of stuff that I cannot say in one introduction. When we were talking, she asked me, what do you do? And I froze, because I discovered that I also do a lot of things. So I don't know if I'm a podcaster, if I'm a pastor. I'm literally jack of all many trades, but master of many as well. And your name is
Tinevimbo.
Tinevimbo.
Yes.
All right, let's run that again. And the name is Tinevimbo Mataz. And welcome to my podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Are you excited?
Very much so. Excited, and I'm not nervous, but I'm just wondering how the conversation is going to go.
Yeah, and I'm excited because I saw you on social media. I think could be 2-3 years ago.
Okay.
And I started following your work. So
All right.
One of the times I was just thinking, who do I invite? So I thought you've been doing amazing work,
Thank you.
especially with the women, and also especially even with the adolescent girls and young women.
Yeah.
We work around period poverty, the structures that you build in Epworth, and that was exciting work for me. And I thought, let me just invite you. So I remember asked my team to inbox you on Instagram.
Yeah.
And you did not respond.
Really?
You didn't.
I didn't.
Yes.
When was this?
Then we like, I know we can try again.
Okay, all
and
right.
then you finally.
God's timing.
God's timing.
God's timing.
And tell me, who are you?
Ooh. I always answer that question by saying I'm a woman in progress, because I'm so many things, but I'm very passionate about changing lives, impacting. When I first started out, it was definitely women and girls, but now it's even men. Because when I was younger, I really called myself a feminist. I'm definitely not a feminist.
Okay.
I'm a humanist. I just want to improve the lives of people, make a change in my community. I'm extremely passionate about women's health.
Okay.
And yeah, I'm an author. I am a human being as well, going through a lived experience. So I'm a woman in progress. Like life is just progressing each day.
So when you talk about humanism and you also talk about feminism, what's the difference within the two concepts?
Oh gosh. So I mean, I think a lot of people, when they think of feminism, you're thinking radical. You know, you're thinking equal rights, which we do want. And which we do deserve.
Which are important.
Which are important. But I still feel that, you know, the world is a little bit messed up now because we have, you know, masculine energy, feminine energy. We all, it's like in Chinese tradition, they call yin and yang, you know.
Okay.
In order for things to move and be complete, you must have both parts, right? And so with feminism, I think it's really being in your feminine energy and doing the things that women were created to do.
Yeah.
Obviously, there is some radical feminism now.
Yes.
There's even what they're calling toxic femininity now.
Okay.
As well as, you know, masculinity is not a bad thing, but it can also become toxic. And then humanism is basically realizing that we are all just human, despite it all, despite like your accolades and your roles. Even for me, we're all just human behind it all. And if we treat each other that way, the world might just be a better place, I think. Just maybe.
It's interesting because I think the concept of feminism itself is not a bad concept. But I think people just then don't realize that there are many layers to feminism. And then they get feminism based on what they think, you know, feminism
or what they've experienced maybe as well.
But I think just feminism is the concept of realizing your feminine energy and being able to be in your femininity. And then when we look at masculinity, I also believe that, you know, if you're a man, you're a man. And there are roles and responsibilities that you have to take as a man.
Okay.
And then you don't then have to abuse your masculinity. You should be able to, you know, there's positive masculinity and there's positive femininity. And I believe that when both concepts are put together, they're so beautiful that we are able to then appreciate the humanity that you talk about. And just like you, I believe that when we realize that the world is in a better place. But like you say, we also live in a very broken society that most of the concepts that we push, we have to be radical because there's always a pushback on
Effect.
anything that
Yeah.
looks like it will affect who I am.
Yeah.
But who you are should never affect who I am. You should be comfortable in who you are.
True.
And I should be comfortable in who I am, and both of us, we should then be able to coexist in that.
Mm-hmm.
So what drives you when we look into all these
Everything I'm doing.
women empowerment initiatives that you're doing? You said you're now also doing men, but when you look at women, what drives you?
It's definitely my personal experience. I grew up in a broken home. I guess we
Okay.
can start there. By profession, I am a psychologist. Studied psychology for about 6 years, and then I'm a certified life coach, concentrating on transformation, body healing, funny enough, and the other one is spiritual life coach.
Okay.
Spiritual being, we concentrate on the mind, body, and spirit. They're all connected, right?
Yes.
So I will always have to go back to, childhood. So my parents were divorced, and unlike most broken families, I lived with my dad.
Okay.
Yeah, because it was my brother and myself. I'm the firstborn, and then my period started very early. I was about 9.
Okay.
And I mean, we were given some kind of education, information about periods.
At school?
Yeah, I remember Johnson & Johnson used to come to school.
All right.
They come in, they explain, this is what a period is. But what we were told as girls, to be honest, was just don't mess around with boys.
Yes.
You fall pregnant.
Yes.
Not the biology of it, not what to expect. So I remember I started my period one day and I'm living with my dad. So who explains to you, what you're supposed to do? I told my teacher, when my dad came to pick me up, she then told him, and we didn't have a conversation about it.
Yeah.
We just went to the shops, he bought different pads, and you just try to put yourself in his shoes where he doesn't even know what to buy, he's just buying different types. And then we get home and he throws them on my bed. So now I'm also looking at them like,
what is this?
What is this? How do you use them? Okay, all right, Johnson & Johnson, once showed us, you have an idea. And that's how I kind of got introduced to my first, period.
All right.
It was okay for the most part. It was fine. I didn't have pain. I didn't even know there was anything called period pain. Got to high school at about age maybe 14, 15, things just changed.
Yeah.
And I remember so vividly the day that it happened. I was in Scripture Union, by the way. I was head of Scripture Union at some point.
Okay.
And Scripture Union, I just felt this very weird pain that I'd never felt before. And I took note of it. Something weird happened to me. I went home. At that time, my dad had remarried. I went home, told my stepmom, and she's like, you know what? It's normal. It continued, and then my flow started to change as well. Anyway, long story cut short, I just started to get sick, just progressing from having a period that was very chilled, very quiet, very calm, to 7 days of pain, missing school, or I'd go to school feeling okay, and then it just goes crazy and I'm in the sick bay. So that's where my journey really starts in terms of women's health and purpose, and trying to understand what it is that women go through.
Yeah.
And I went through high school as a very miserable young girl because my peers were not going through that, you know. And I was bullied, I was ostracized, I was a loner. I had friends, but I wasn't, very talkative like I am now. Okay. I'm very talkative now. But I was very quiet. And I kept on going to doctors and they're like, there's nothing wrong with her. It's normal. That's what happens. But I mean, I later on realized that it's actually not normal for you to have period pain that affects your everyday life, which is your school, going to work, playing sports. People always ask me, did you ever play sports? I'm like, not really. I played soccer for a bit, But then like I would get so sick on the field. And I remember the last day of high school, I was so happy to leave because I was like, okay, I'm never going to see these people again because it was so bad. And then that's when I started to have a bit of an inclination of, okay, is this what women go through? Do other women go through this? That's now, I think I'm 19 or 20. It's time to go to university. And I don't go when everyone else goes because it keeps progressing. You know, it keeps progressing. And I had a lot of time to myself. And I remember, like, I wrote in a counter book, you know, those black counter books. Yes. Okay, I want to do this. Okay, but how am I going to do this? Because I'm sick. I was bedridden most of the time. I was bleeding. There's a time I bled for like 1 whole year. I was bleeding 1 year. So my family, my inner circle, my family, they knew. And basically, I just stayed at home. I didn't have a life. So I had a lot of time to think, and I was very depressed at the time as well, because I'm thinking, is this my life? Is this normal? It can't be normal. Like, is this what women are going through? And then I thought, okay, what happens to the girl in Epworth, in Budiriro, who doesn't even have the access that I have to go to a doctor and get a scan? Yes, the scan is saying everything is normal, but what happens? Prior to all of this, I was always very, very interested in community work. I always used to get prizes at school, service awards, etc., etc. But like black people don't believe that can be a profession, right? So in my solitude at the time, I then thought, since I'm not doing anything, let me go into communities and start to like find out what's going on. And literally that's where all of this came from. That was 2014. I started my organization called As I Am Foundation, which is basically helping women and girls in vulnerable communities. And then I also started the Zim Endo Support Network because I eventually got diagnosed with endometriosis. And then I started to also think again, like, what is this disease? Am I the only person in Zim who has it?
So before we get there, so did you ever then talk to your dad about your period?
No. Not really. When you say talk, like sit down and talk?
Even...
So I think people knew, even my brother knew that I had issues, I was sick. But, you know, he would ask, like, how's your stomach today? Oh, it's okay, you know. How are you feeling? But it became very normal to talk about the pain that I have. So he'll ask, how is it? You know, I'm in and out of ER. But I don't think we actually sat down to talk about it. He's actually a very quiet and reserved person, contrary to what people think.
What do you mean?
People think he's very,
Oh, it's just at that time he loves the camera. Like,
the camera, you know, but he's actually a very shy and quiet person.
Okay.
So, yeah, we never really sat down to talk about it, but he's been very, very supportive over the years.
All right.
So, yeah.
Okay, because I mean, when you talk about, you know, menstrual health, period, poverty, it has become a thing, especially when you look at child-aided families, families that, you know, you're a girl and you're staying with your dad, and it's a taboo to talk about these things in our culture, and you then realize that there's also misinformation then that comes with the community itself, and I think even girls trying to find out what's happening within their body, just beyond periods, but
so
even
puberty. If you just to ask just a random person, I wish we could do a survey. What a period. So when you think about just a random person, anyway, from any social standing, what is a period? They can't answer it. Do you know? Do you know?
I think I do.
Okay, what happens?
What
is
difficult
question? Yeah, what is technically happening to you to a woman?
What is technically happening to a woman is that the body is preparing itself, and because it's that time where a woman grows, and there are of does it cause, they become fertile. So the body is preparing itself, and the reproductive system is cleaning itself, and then they get ready for the next period.
Yeah. You kind of, right? So basically, every month women are releasing, an egg. An egg is released.
Yeah. And
then if it's not fertilized, it's coming out as blood, right?
Yeah.
If it's fertilized, then hey.
Okay.
There's a baby coming.
Yes.
But a lot of people don't know that. So funga kumamisha ukukuti, like, how does that conversation even start? Sometimes I run workshops for young girls, and for me to just get the mothers to sit with their daughters, we're not even talking about fathers, and just explain their first period, they can't. I'm like, why? How? If you ask them, they'll tell you, I don't remember. So it's a huge social issue.
Something that is not supposed to be
spoken about. Oh yeah.
But also something then that have given us a lot of problems. I remember we dealt with a case of a young girl, got on a period for the first time. The mother is in South Africa, staying with the dad, and it happened in a what do you call them? PPP. It happened Muchimota, the car that was taking them from school. So this guy actually saw it, like, you're spoiled. And the guy was like, okay, you sit down, I'll drop you last. So she's worried. He asked her, do you know what is happening to you?
Yeah.
She says, I don't know. The guy says, you are no longer a virgin. But I have to buy you pads. So the guy bought this girl pads and said no one should know. So she couldn't tell the dad, she couldn't tell anyone. But she believed that she was no longer a virgin. So, end of story, the guy took advantage of her, raped her, and then she got pregnant. And then that's how this story came about. So you realize that today, even in the internet age, young people research about a lot of things, but
not that
it doesn't take them to the right sites where there is age appropriate information. And then they also get this information from unreliable sources. And the reliable sources are saying we can't talk about this. So I mean, when we have these programs, we are also able to deal with a lot of things that happen in the community. All right, so back to your story. Then you say, then you were diagnosed with endometriosis. Was that something that you have heard of before? Or this was your first time hearing about it?
No, I mean, I'm a very open person. I think people have heard snippets of it. So, post high school now, it was now like family gossip. I would go to school with a hot water bottle just to help me with pain. I was also, which is something that we need to really take note of, is I was going to a lot of doctors. And they were saying, no, this is normal. It's very normal. You wake people in the middle of the night. Your period has started. You are in so much pain. You are screaming. You are clotting. I would have these big clots that look like liver, and you don't know what's like going on. You go to the hospital, they tell you, oh, it's normal. I remember at some point, one doctor was like, no, we think she's losing her mind. They told my dad, I think she needs to see a psychologist, It's normal. That's about 9, 10 years ago. And then I started to research, like you were saying, And now the issue with women's health conditions, so to say, is the signs and symptoms are more or less the same. So I'm seeing fibroids, PCOS, endometriosis, cyst, PID, STIs, this, and this, right? Now you don't know which one you have.
You don't know.
I was not sexually active at the time, but I remember going to a certain institution and they said, no, she's being sexually reckless. And I said to them, I've never even had sex with a guy before. These young girls. And that day they actually treated me for an STI. And I remember I woke up the next day with like really, really bad thrush. And I was just like, okay, this is bad. Now I'm getting to a place where even institutions are misdiagnosing me and not even treating me correctly, because for a young girl who's maybe 18 or 19 to be complaining about pelvic pain or bleeding or clots, it means she's had an abortion, or that's what they thought.
Okay.
So one day, I'm sitting and an uncle of mine on Facebook, those days it was Facebook days, and he just goes into my, I think it's Messenger or whatever, says, hey, hi, my name is Uncle Ningi. I'm based in the UK. You know, I heard that you've got these health problems. I know someone similar who has got, I know someone who's got something similar to what you have, but she's in South Africa. Do you mind going to see this woman? Right? First of all, I'm like, who is this uncle? Never even met him. Okay, weird. Mind you, I had gone to doctors before and said, I think I might have endometriosis. And the doctor said, no, black girls don't get endo. It's a white woman's disease.
Oh.
Right? But it's one of those, I did process of elimination. I'm like, seems like this, seems like this, seems like this.
So what are some of the things that
The
were
signs
said? The things. What are some of the things that were said to you, as you know, people just look at the situation and without understanding, said about you?
Attention seeking, spoiled, yeah, she's had abortions clearly, but it was mostly attention seeking. I will never forget, I heard the wildest rumor about myself, that I was so sick that I was using a wheelchair. I'm like, okay, I know I'm sick, but not like that. But yeah, and it came from very close people, you know. People that are not close to you, yeah, you hear it, it doesn't hurt, but it came from very, very close people.
And we don't actually talk much about what, you know, close people who should be actually our shield,
Protecting
who should
you.
be our protectors, who should also
Advocate for you.
Give you the support that you need, you know, being the people that are doing the opposite.
Yeah, so that was happening. I'll be very honest, our family system got very broken because of it. Because now the doctors, who are people in authority, are saying, this is a hoax, you know. Yeah. But people who live with me and know me can visibly see I'm losing weight. I mean, when blood is coming out, you can't hide that, you know. My mom definitely knew. I got to the point where I would just be sitting or standing and having a conversation with someone and then faint, because I was losing so much blood. So people could visibly see that she's not well. And I'm sure you guess, oh, okay, maybe she's HIV positive or whatever, you know. That's what people think when someone starts to become unwell. So yeah, this uncle spoke to me. I thought it was a bit weird, but I was desperate. I had knocked on so many doors. So I went to South Africa. I met this woman. We started talking. It was a very long car ride, about 2 hours, to her gynecologist. Now, I want you to understand, you know, you get to South Africa, right? You get to the airport. You get to Sandton. Sandton. Kwenda ku ghetto place called Soshangove.
Okay.
I'm like, where are we going? I don't even know this woman, right? But anyway, my uncle says, I know her very well. Go with her. We get there. It's just funny looking doctor's rooms. There's like a queue. So we're just sitting. So as we're sitting, she's telling me her story. And her story sounds exactly like mine. She's a bit older. And it sounds exactly like mine. And she's telling me also like, oh, you know how I ended up having a baby? I just asked a friend of mine to like give me a baby. And that's how I have my son. She was black, her son was colored.
Okay.
And I was like, that is so wild. Why would somebody do that? Our turn came, we went in there. The doctor did a scan. I think it took about 5 minutes. He's like, okay, you have stage 4 endometriosis. I'm like, what? What does that mean? He's not trying to explain it to me, okay. It means A, B, C, D. So basically with endometriosis,
All right.
it means that tissue that is similar to the lining of your uterus. Remember when we were talking about the period, we were saying that it's the egg being released. It's basically the lining of your uterus shedding and coming out. Mm-hmm. Interestingly enough, endo has been there for centuries, right? In fact, with some of my research and some of the stuff that I do, they used to lynch and kill women who had endometriosis because you were useless in society.
Oh, yeah.
You can't have kids.
Okay.
You're just bleeding. You can't work. So they would kill them, right? And so basically you're shedding. So apparently it stays inside. It doesn't all come out. Okay. And that's what then causes lesions, sort of like tumors. They're benign, they're not cancerous. Okay. And that's what then causes the pain that women go through. And also that's how you then have issues with fertility. Because, the egg and the sperm are fighting against these foreign tumors.
Okay.
So I get there, I'm confused. You don't even know how to feel.
Yeah.
You feel a sense of redemption of, okay, so I'm not that crazy after all. But then now you're being told stage 4. I mean, I'd only ever heard of stage 1, 2, 3 in cancer. Mm-hmm. So now I'm like, okay. And something that doctors do that I absolutely hate is, because they have so many patients, they give you a lot of information, 5-10 minutes, and then you must just go. Yeah. Or you must just make a decision in the rooms. But I'm 19, 20, I don't even know half of what he's talking about.
Okay.
Anyway, he suggested some kind of injection that I took that was supposed to stop my period. Right. At the time, I was not an advocate like I am now. So I took it, and I remember within 2-3 weeks, I just had like body pain, bone pain, and I was supposed to have done 3 of those injections, and I just said, nope, I'm not doing it. So that's when I started my journey of just talking about it. People thought I was crazy. Yeah. Facebook, and just go right. Now I teach. I teach, and what she talking about now? But it was really like, for me, what I went through, like, imagine how many other people are going through that. Okay. If it's not for my uncle who had just said, they say it takes 7 to 10 years to get a diagnosis for most women. For me, it was about maybe 5 or 6.
All right.
Yeah.
And it was already stage 4.
It was already stage 4.
Okay. So how do you deal with pain?
Personally?
Yeah.
Painkillers every day.
So you have to take painkillers every day?
Endometriosis mimics cancer. This is why it has stages.
All right.
Remember I said they're benign, but women with endometriosis are at higher risk of developing your endometrial cancer, ovarian cancer, and cervical cancer. Right? You're at higher risk of that. So literally, it spreads and it grows.
Yeah.
It has been found in every organ except the spleen, I think. You can have it in your teeth.
Okay. In
your brain. Very rare cases, but it's possible. Right. I know people who've had it in their chest. Okay. Last year, I lost an endo sister and grew in her chest. So every time she would go on, her lungs would collapse. Oh. Every single time she would go on a period, her lungs would collapse. Okay. She then went and got special care in the US. But just think how much that cost. Go fund me. This was a Kenyan lady. I also lost another endo sister due to she'd had about almost 30 surgeries. I've only had 4, and I think it's a lot. Yeah. She'd had about 30, and then she just caught an infection, went into the ER like we do often, and she died. Recently again, a few weeks ago, another girl died at a certain hospital. period pain, went in, said my back was sore. They did pain management, and she died. So it's a very, very serious thing.
Yeah.
For me, I manage pain management, and also I'll be very honest that I try to keep my mental game very, I try to keep it up.
Okay.
I've noticed that when my mental health is low, I'm sicker.
Okay.
So I try to keep very busy despite the pain. I tried, and it wasn't always like that. I remember in the very first years, I was very depressed. I felt sorry for myself. And then the work that I do and have been doing over the years has just given me so much purpose that I'm like, I'm a fighter, you know. I'll be down for a few days. I remember last week when we were speaking, I was like, I'm in hospital, but give me a few days, I'll be fine, you know.
Yeah.
Because I know that there are women that are counting on me, and they're like, especially the women in our group now. We started with about 3 or 4 women. Now we're more than 200 women.
Oh.
And these women are looking and saying, okay, Tine, if Tine can do it, so can I. So that really, really helps me. But to be honest, it's painkillers, it's hormones, treatments, surgeries.
Yeah. And I think when you also talk about community, we don't realize the power
Of community.
Yeah. Every time we think, in every situation in this life, there is always a temptation for an individual to think, I'm in this situation and I'm alone. There is no one who is going through the same.
Yeah.
And when we even look at the support structure, because we're talking about parents, we're talking about relatives, we're talking about friends, they also don't realize if they don't have to find out. And that is why we should be able to have conversations about things that are not talked about most of the time. Because talking about things makes you realize you're not alone. And if you are not alone, then if we create a community, then we can have conversations. I can share my experiences. You can share your experiences, and we can have a support structure on who to talk to, where to get the services, information. Just also that thing of saying, if this one has been through it for so long, it means also I can do. If this one can manage it this way, I can also manage it. And you got married.
Yes. I knew that one was coming next, but okay, let's go. I got married.
You got married. Did your partner know about your condition?
Yes. So I actually met my ex-husband when I was 19.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he was with me through most of it.
All right.
And I think I definitely have to give him that. Through most of it, we were both young. We were the same age.
Okay.
And yeah, he knew. But I think, and I say this now, it's very different hearing about something, seeing it for 2-3 minutes, and then dealing with it for 24 hours.
Yeah.
Very different.
Yeah.
It's a shame, and it's something that happens all the time, like especially in our group, just in society. It's very, very, very different. So through most of it, through the operations, someone will pop by, see you, bring you an ice cream, and you're talking about the pain, but And we also dated for a very long period of time, for like 10 years. Oh, so I was doing my thing. I was, building. I was writing my books. So I think for the most part, I would like to think maybe that's the person that he saw a lot of the time. And then you get married, and then you start to see a very broken version of someone. Like, this is very different. I think I made a joke when we were starting, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm looking like this. I was in hospital last week. It's very different. And it can switch at any time, I think people need to understand that, like, even I'm an advocate. I am very, very well versed on endometriosis. I'm part of international organizations, but sometimes it even confuses me.
All right.
Like, okay, this painkiller was working yesterday. Why is it not working anymore? So for someone who's trying to make logic out of it, it becomes very hard, right? So, I mean, there were other issues, but endo was definitely one of them, you know. How you react to it, you know. Empathy, just having empathy. Your choice of words, what you say, extended family, you know. Personally, for me, and I always say this, I thought, you know, I'm smashing my goals. I eventually, like, started doing online schooling.
All right.
Because I couldn't, like, physically go to class every day. And I did so well. I got 24 distinctions at UNISA. So much so that they called me in and they're like, this has never been done before. How did you do it? Right? Meanwhile, I'm, like, writing books. And so I thought I'm doing pretty well.
Yeah.
And then I got into the marriage institution and I didn't realize that having a baby was, like, that serious, that your lack thereof of having a child basically makes you non-existent. It makes you a second-rate citizen. It puts you at risk of abuse, you know. A lot of GBV cases happen because of this. Extended relatives, they don't even care if you've gotten beaten up because, I mean, to normally, this is, you know, I'm being very honest. And you can't really have, you don't have a voice anymore because as we would have it, a society, okay, this guy has paid Rora for you, you know. There is a propensity, you know, we go back to toxic masculinity that, okay, I paid Rora, you've been bought. And now I've bought this object and it's not doing what it's supposed to do. So a lot of things start to happen. And a lot of times for women on both sides, whether it's on your family side or his side, there's a very, very little amount of support and protection. So, and then for me also, it was very, very hard for me because I got in and, like, I was so excited. I stopped all my treatments. So a lot of the treatments, apart from, you know, your painkillers and your surgeries, are they will try to stop your period for a period of time. Because what happens is every time you're on your period, your number one symptom will be a very, very bad period, right? Because as you are bleeding, they say the endo is bleeding as well. Those lesions are bleeding. So how I managed to kind of get by is, for a period of time, I didn't have my period now. And then got married, I was so excited, you know, I stopped all the hormones, my period was back, and then it's just not happening. You're not falling pregnant. You're not falling pregnant, so you're depressed. You're not the very happy and chirpy wife that he's hoping to come home to. And then several issues begin. So yeah, I was married for about, if we technically 3 years. But, you know, issues started, quite early on. And one of the reasons why for me it no longer could work out was because I was like, I'm this advocate, I'm this activist, this is not okay. Very hard. But I didn't know and think that life would get that bad, you know. Social issues, you start to tell other women, they're like, why were you even getting married in the first place? But you just feel like, I'm a person, I deserve happiness as well. I deserve to be treated well. And and then I got divorced.
All right. So how has this shaped your relationships? After the divorce?
I would say in the very beginning I was quite bitter. I was on the men are trash end of things. I really was, because I'd been so hurt. I was so hurt. People who know me very well were like, oh my gosh, is she gonna get through this? It was a very, very hard time, and healing takes time. I think I will always have that scar from that, you know, the bruising.
Yeah.
The scars are there. The bruises are there. But I must say that I was pleasantly surprised to then come across someone who is very pleasant and has not made that part of my life feel like there's anything wrong. It's hard though, I think, because now when you move on, you're constantly on edge of when it's going to change again. When someone tells you, no, I actually don't care.
So you're trying to tell us that you're in a relationship?
Yes, I am now. I am.
Are you blushing?
I am blushing. I'm blushing.
All right.
But it's just a testimony to say, like, when you're going through it, and I think also with like, what happens is you are put in a corner where you are made to believe no one else is going to want you because of A, B, C, D. And then you get into this world and you're kind of shocked. I mean, you're going to kiss a couple of frogs, and it's going to go bad. But I think there are still some good people out there, we hope, and men who look at the bigger picture of things.
All right.
Yeah.
So what do you do with the support group? I think just one of the things that we talk about before we close.
What we do?
What
oh my
do you
gosh,
do
we
with this?
talk, man. We talk. There's some people at the back, maybe they can just comment on how much talking happens in that group.
All right.
So much. Because things are so bad, we help each other out. For me, my thing was, you should never feel alone.
Yeah.
So at any given time,
Yes.
it can be 4 a.m., 6 a.m., 3 a.m., 12 p.m. There is someone who is going to be able to attend to you. So we talk a lot. We joke a lot. Like, you'll be very, very surprised. We joke a lot. We tease each other. Drug addicts. Oh, you're a drug addict.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have very real and honest conversations about relationships and children, treatment options. People believe in different things, They're the people who are like, okay, let's pray, pray. We do that. They're the people who are like, okay, I found out about this herb. We do that. I try to always say, guys, this must be a safe space.
Yes.
I've been running that thing for 10 years, and believe it or not, I've never had any breach of information. I think people respect it. And so for me, I have achieved so many things in life, but that's definitely one of my biggest achievements, because I know that these women feel safe, They have someone who can, who can hear them. When I was in hospital, I knew they're praying for me, we help each other out, when someone doesn't have painkillers. Trust me, someone in that group will have painkillers. So it's really a really great community advice. And because we have different people, different ages, we have the younger ones and then the older ones. We have some who've even had their wombs removed. They're now older. And so at any given time, there is someone who has gone before you, who can say, look, you're going to be okay. So it's completely free. I just do a bit of vetting before, people come in, because you're basically sharing your life with people that you don't know. We also have physical support group meetings. They're quite hard to put together, because remember, you're dealing with a very sick group of women, but we meet and we laugh. And we make jokes, but for the most part, we are forever talking throughout the day, and it's a really great place.
Which is beautiful, and you're doing well.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you so much.
How has been being Teach Mataz's
Oh my
daughter
gosh! I thought I'd escaped this one.
affected your relationships?
The different ones?
Yeah, the different ones.
Friendships, weird sometimes. And growing up, my father always used to tell me, Tine, be very careful. I'm a very loving and accommodating person. So is he.
Okay.
So I grew up seeing people coming to our house, and like my charity bone definitely comes from him.
All right.
So I'm the kind of person where if you have a problem, You come sleep, you sleep on the couch, I'll help you out.
Right.
So I've done that a lot of times, and I've been burnt a lot of times as well. Only to realize that people just want to get close to you because they want information, etc., etc.
Right.
So I've had to be very careful with maybe friendships. Work-wise, a lot of people think that the opportunities that I have had are because of work, because of him.
Okay.
Half of the time, he has no idea what I'm doing.
All right.
He's not even a social media person like that.
Okay.
And then romantically, I don't think it's affected me in any way. And I think I'm very sure to tell the person I'm with, like, please just remember he's a person at the same time. He's my dad, you know. And you would have to interact with him, like I said, to see that, you know, when he's not in the workspace, he's a very quiet and shy person.